Hey everyone! If you've been diving into Girls Frontline 2 Exilium, you know how important it is to have the right characters in your squad. Whether you're just getting started or deep into the game, knowing which dolls are top tier can really make a difference. In today's video, we're going to break down the best characters in the global version of the game and help you decide who's worth chasing for in the current banner. Trust me, picking up the right characters can turn the tide of battle in your favor, especially when you're grinding through the tougher mid to late game stages. All the dolls have their own unique skills and playstyles, but some definitely shine brighter than others. If you're wondering who should be in your team, or maybe you're thinking about re-rolling, this tier list is going to give you all the info you need. We'll go through the meta choices that'll give you an edge, so you can dominate your enemies and breeze through some of the hardest content the game throws at you. Stick around as we dive into the top tier characters that you absolutely can't afford to miss. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking characters in Girls Frontline 2 Exilium. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching! The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Peritia, Nagant, Vepli, Litara, Krolik, and Kolfini. Alright, let's dive into the chaotic world of Girls Frontline 2 Exilium, and talk about some of the characters that may not exactly be getting the spotlight they deserve. Or maybe they are, but for all the wrong reasons. We're talking about the C-tier characters, the ones who are kind of meh. Not terrible, but definitely not breaking any records. So grab a seat and let's walk through this list together. First up, we've got Peritia, the SSR Sentinel who really wants to be the hero of the team, but can't quite manage it. Equipped with an LMG, she's all about that corrosive damage. Lots of AoE attacks that can burn through enemies in the early game. But here's the problem. When it comes to mid and late game, her skills don't scale as well as some other characters. You see, while AoE is great in the beginning, it's all about the single target bursts as you get deeper into the game. And poor Peritia, she's just not built for that. Then there's Nagant, the SR support who thinks she's pulling her weight with that acid corrosion damage from her handgun. Now, don't get me wrong, she's got potential. Her ultimate does add a solid 10% defense debuff, but she lacks the utility that a top-tier support character brings to the table. In fact, most of her kit can be found in other characters' abilities. So, unless you're desperate for a corrosion debuff and absolutely love her vibe, Nagant isn't the one to rely on long-term. Now, let's talk about Vepli, the SSR Vanguard who just can't seem to find her footing. She's got a shotgun and her whole deal is knocking enemies back, which sounds kinda cool, right? Except here's the thing. Other Vanguard units just do it better. Vepli's damage is lackluster, and the knockback can seriously mess with your team's flow. Picture this. Your tanks and DPS are all charging in, ready to make their move, and then, boom, Vepli sends the target flying out of reach. Not exactly the dream scenario, is it? Moving on, we've got Litara, an SR Sentinel who's all about delivering AoE damage and defensive debuffs. Sounds promising, huh? Well, it would be if her damage wasn't so underwhelming. With just 834 max damage, she falls behind other DPS options in the same class. Litara might shine early on, but once you've got better options like Cheongju and Tololo in the mix, she's pretty much ready for the bench. Sorry Litara, you gave it your best shot. Krolik is up next, and she's an SR Vanguard who just can't measure up to Ulrid, her SSR counterpart. She might have burn damage on her side, but her max damage is way lower, and that's a problem when you're playing a frontline unit. Plus, she's squishier than you'd like your Vanguard to be. You want your frontliners to tank hits and deal damage, not fall over at the first sign of trouble. So, unless you're super attached to the idea of having a Vanguard sword user, Krolik might not be the best fit for your team. And then we have Kolfini, the SR support who, let's be real, barely does anything exciting. Her whole thing is healing, which is fine and all, but that's pretty much it. In the early game, sure, she can be helpful, but once you've unlocked other support units who offer buffs and utility, Kolfini's just a healer with no extra flair. She's the bread and butter, but once you get the good stuff, you're probably going to put her on the shelf. So what's the takeaway from all this? While these characters aren't exactly bad, they're definitely not standing out in a way that makes them irreplaceable in your squad. They've got their moments, but as you progress through Girls Frontline 2 Exilium, you'll probably want to swap them out for stronger, more versatile characters. Unless, of course, you're a huge fan of their design or personality, hey, no judgment here. But in terms of performance, these C-tier characters just don't bring enough to the table to be considered top-tier contenders. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Dushevnaya, Ulrid, Groza, Cheetah, and Papasha. Alright folks, let's dive into the world of Girls Frontline 2 Exilium and take a look at some B-tier characters. I know, no one wants to hear about the meh characters, but hey, even in a game full of badasses, these guys have their moments. So let's talk about them before you totally write them off. First up, we've got Dushavnaya, the SSR super rare support unit. Now, you'd think with her freeze damage that she'd be the queen of controlling the battlefield, right? Well, not quite. She can provide a solid 10% freeze and damage buff to her allies, which sounds great in theory, but compared to someone like Suomi, she just doesn't hold up as well in the current meta. So, unless you're really in love with that freeze effect, you might be better off pulling for someone a little more impactful. And, her lack of healing and shielding doesn't do her any favors either. She's kinda squishy, so yeah, not the greatest pick if you want someone who can really handle the heat. Then there's Ulrid, another SSR character who's all about physical damage. She's a vanguard, but instead of the usual rifle-wielding tactics, she's all about slicing and dicing with a sword. Sounds cool, right? Well, it is, but it's also a bit of a risky playstyle. Running into the fray headfirst with Ulrid might seem like you're bringing a knife to a gunfight, but with her insane mobility and ability to camouflage, she actually knows how to stay alive. Just make sure you're letting your ranged characters do the heavy lifting first before you send Ulrid in to finish off the leftovers. She's definitely got some swagger, but you'll need to play it smart with her. Next up, we have Groza, the SR super rare bulwark unit. Now, Groza might not be the flashiest character in the game, but let me tell you, she is solid. If you're looking for a tank who can hold the line, she's your gal. Her active skills give nearby allies defensive buffs, and she can reduce enemy movements by 2 tiles. It doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it can be a game changer when you need to kite a boss or just keep your squishy DPS characters safe from the enemy's wrath. Sometimes, less is more, right? Cheetah is another SR support unit, but this one's a bit of a mixed bag. She loves giving buffs, like, loves it. Her ultimate gives 2 random buffs to all allies for 2 turns, but here's the catch, those buffs are random, and sometimes, well, they're not all that helpful. It's kind of like rolling the dice and hoping you don't end up with the meh buffs. She does have some passive healing to throw in the mix, but without that consistency, Cheetah ends up being just a bit better than Kolfni, which honestly isn't saying much. Let's not forget about Papasha, the SSR Sentinel unit. Now, this one's an interesting case. Papasha deals physical damage and can remove debuffs, but here's where she shines. At the start of battle, she summons a city warden who boosts her attack by 20% whenever the warden lands a critical hit. That's a nice little boost for sure. But outside of platoon content, Papasha isn't exactly a top-tier pick. She's still a solid character, just not the one you want to focus on if you're looking for the best physical damage dealers in the game right now. She's just chilling comfortably in the B tier for now, waiting for her time to shine again. So there you have it. Some B-tier characters who can still pull their weight in certain situations, but when stacked up against the absolute powerhouses in Girls Frontline 2 Exilium, they just don't stand out. They're like that one friend who's always good enough to tag along, but never the one making the big plays. And hey, that's okay. Everyone has their role to play in the team. But before you go, don't forget, sometimes these B-tier characters can surprise you when you least expect it. They might not be the flashy SSR or S-tier units, but in the right hands and with the right team composition, they can still be incredibly useful. So, while you might not want to rush to pull for them, don't completely dismiss them either. You never know when you'll need that random freeze or tanky defense boost. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Tololo, Sharkri, Diane, Centauraisi, Lada, Mosin Nagant, Sabrina, Xenia, and Nemesis. Let me put it this way. If the S-tier dolls are the queens of the battlefield, the A-tier girls are the royal guard who make sure those queens don't trip over their own capes. These dolls may not always steal the spotlight, but they definitely deserve a standing ovation. Let's talk about some of the best A-tier characters who'll carry you through chaos like a pack of stylish, well-armed guardian angels. First up, Tololo. This girl is built different. She's a sentinel class with hydro damage, and let me tell you, her passive ability is borderline illegal. She gets 2 turns right at the start of battle, and again every time her confectance index is full. That means she's ready to delete enemies while they're still stretching. She's an early to mid-game monster, but hey, even monsters need a break in late-game content. That's when she starts to feel a bit outpaced, but by then, she's already done more than enough heavy lifting. Now, let's talk about Sharkri, the Overburn Queen. She's a sentinel who deals burn damage, and her kit is all about vaporizing high-priority targets before they even know what hit them. With an assault rifle that can hit targets 8 tiles away and a passive that boosts her critical rate by 20% when enemies are burning, she's a sharpshooter with a flamethrower's attitude. Pair her with other burn units like Tololo, and you've got yourself a barbecue of destruction. Moving on to Diane, a vanguard who's perfect for boss fights. This SR doll dishes out physical damage and can slap debuffs on enemies with her perfect tuning skill. Run her with the heavy cord rifle and you get extra bonuses at full health, including the chance to strip buffs off enemies. Basically, she walks in, messes with the enemy's mojo, and makes life easier for your damage dealers. A real team player with some sneaky tricks up her sleeve. Speaking of team players, let's not skip over Centauresi. This SSR support unit slings fire damage and doubles as a mobile medic. Her ultimate Afternoon Tea Break, yes, that's the real name, heals your team for 100% of her attack power and cleanses debuffs like a spa day with gunfire. She may not be the strongest burn character, but her ability to support both offensively and defensively makes her an essential addition to any fire-based squad. Then we've got Lotta, who's basically what happens if a shotgun had a favorite hobby, and that hobby was freezing people. As a sentinel with freeze damage, she shines in crowd control situations. Her passive lets her follow up with extra area of effect physical damage when enemies are suffering from frostbite. And her ultimate ignores cover, adds extra commands, and just generally causes chaos. A frosty menace, and we love her for it. Mosin Nagant is the go-to SSR Sentinel if you want classic sniper vibes with electric damage. She's a long-range beast whose active and ultimate skills paralyze enemies while dealing hefty damage. But, fair warning, she's not mobile. Like, at all. Keep her at the back, protected by your team, and she'll pick off targets like it's open season. Now if you like your tanks with a little splash, Sabrina is your girl. She's an SSR bulwark with hydro damage who rushes enemies to hit them with shotgun blasts. The magic happens when you pair her with Tololo. Every time someone deals hydro damage, Tololo's crit rate and crit damage get buffed, stacking up to 8 times. That's some beautiful synergy right there. Sabrina brings the pain and Tololo finishes the job. And finally, let's shout out Ksenia and Nemesis. Ksenia is a support character who brings burn damage and heals, kind of like Centauresi's younger, edgier cousin. She's great for burn comps, especially if you haven't pulled Suomi yet. Nemesis, on the other hand, is a long-range sentinel with corrosion damage and a defense-shredding debuff. She's not quite Mosin Nagant, but she makes up for it by weakening enemies and dishing out damage from 9 tiles away. 9. That's like sniper range plus a little sass. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Cheongju, Klukai, Suomi, Macchiato, and Vector. You ever meet a character so good, you start building your whole team around them like they're the main character and the rest are just background dancers? Yeah, that's Cheongju. She's an SSR Rarity Sentinel class unit who dishes out a nasty mix of physical and burn damage. But the real party trick? Her passive ability called Steady Plan. Whenever an enemy gets hit by an ally, Cheongju casually drops 3 follow-up attacks. Just imagine, you sneeze in the enemy's direction and Cheongju's already unloading a mini barrage. It's not just satisfying, it's borderline illegal in how much damage she stacks up, especially in those brutal late-game fights where enemies are basically walking tanks. Now, let's talk Klukai, another Sentinel-class unit, also SSR Rarity, but her flavor is all about corrosion damage. If Cheongju is the flamethrower, Klukai is the acid bath. She specializes in area of effect attacks that melt multiple enemies at once, which is perfect for when the battlefield starts to look like rush hour traffic. Bonus points. She can also slap defensive debuffs onto enemies. And if you team her up with Peritia, who's another corrosion damage dealer, Klukai's attacks start triggering Peritia's action support automatically. It's like a 2-for-1 sale on enemy suffering. Okay, time to chill, literally, with Suomi. This SSR Rarity support class unit brings freeze damage to the table, but don't let the support label fool you. She's not just sitting in the back tossing band-aids. Suomi gives your entire team thick, tanky shields and then says, "Oh, your team got hurt? Let me just heal everyone and also remove those annoying debuffs." Her ultimate is like a group therapy session and a protein shake in one. And get this, the higher her defense stat, the more damage she deals. She's like a walking fortress that punches back harder the more you try to break it. Speaking of Ice Queens, we can't forget Macchiato. Yep, just like the coffee, but way deadlier. She's an SSR Rarity Sentinel class unit who also deals both physical and freeze damage. Pair her up with Suomi and you've got a dream team of frosty destruction. Her ultimate gives her a frost barrier for 2 turns, and Suomi can help restore that barrier when needed. It's a beautiful freeze damage synergy. Also, I just love that she's stylish and lethal. Truly an icon for our times. Now let's crank the heat back up with Vector. This SSR rarity support unit is your best friend if you're building a burn elemental team. She's armed with a submachine gun, and every shot she fires basically turns your enemies into human candles. Her passive ability, Perception Block, increases support attacks that apply burn damage by 1. Pair her with Cheongju, and suddenly your screen is just fire, fire, and more fire. It's chaos, it's beautiful, it's borderline war crime levels of burning. One of the coolest things about these characters is how well they play off each other. Like, Cheongju and Vector together are just chef's kiss. One stacking burn hits like a pyromaniac with a grudge, and the other is backing her up with support attacks that set everything ablaze. You don't even need strategy at that point, just unleash them and watch the world burn. And don't sleep on team synergies like Swami with Macchiato or Klukai with Paritia. The game really rewards you for putting the right dolls together. It's not just about throwing the strongest units in a lineup, it's about finding those combos that make the whole squad go Super Saiyan. When you get it right, it's so satisfying to watch everything fall into place like a 5-star gacha pull on the first try. So yeah, if you're wondering who the real queens of Girls Frontline 2 Exilium are, look no further. These 5 SSR characters are not just strong, they define the meta. Whether you want to burn, freeze, or corrode your enemies into oblivion, there's a team comp waiting to be built. Just remember, friendship may be magic, but elemental synergy is broken. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.